Welcome back to the small garage here known as Basin Motorsports. I'm Canaan Manley, and this is the third round submission for the Bitchin Bootcamp show on Motor Trend streaming service. So by this point, you guys hopefully have seen my round 1 pictures and my information, my round 2 video, and this will be my round 3 and the final round of the Bitchin Bootcamp application process. So like I said before, I had applied with some pictures and that. The very next day I was asked to make a video for round 2, which I did. I ended up meeting Dave Kindig and Kevin Sheely off of the Bitchin Rides. I met them the next day at a show, and then I had to wait. I didn't know if I made it or not to round 3, but it took them a week. They got back to me and said, hey, we want another video from you. This will be for round 3. And we want you to make it more personal and more directed at Dave and Kevin themselves. So by this point, I had already shown a little bit of my projects in that, my Halo car, the widefox. I don't think I had my gray one in here at that point. But really what they wanted me to show or to say to Dave and Kevin was that why I was different, why they needed to hire me, etc. And they were kind of like, it's really kind of playful in the show in that we want you to show a little bit more of your outgoing personality, be kind of playful with it. If you're kind of like a brash personality and that, kind of, dig at them a little bit, talk a little trash. So at that point, I again immediately came out that night and made my round 3 video. Now this is what I submitted for round 3. Hey Dave and Kevin, let me guess, you saw the wide body down at the Benefit for the Basin show and you thought, we gotta talk to that guy. So would you consider this to be round 3 or round 2.5? I'm not sure. But in this round I'm supposed to show you some personality and some actual work. Not the finished product, but me doing stuff in live action. So in the last video I might have been a little stiff. Now guaranteed, I'm an engineer by background, and so engineers, well, we're kind of a dry personality. But not me. I'm more of a wet personality. No, I shouldn't describe myself as that. I'm more of a lively personality. Now, in doing so much more of a lively personality, I like to work a lot in themes, and I also like to make up songs as I do stuff to keep myself entertained. So, a while ago when I was building my Halo car, I came up with this idea at Halloween. I really wanted to scare the viewers, so I started a video with this. Welcome to your Halloween nightmare. Did you find that scary? Maybe not. But in that video, one of the biggest things that I had to overcome in that was that I had never cut body panels. It was always kind of like I could always do stuff that's really not very structural, but body panels, ooh, those are structural. So in that video, I cut them up, I welded them, and then I drilled holes in the body to be able to attach the wide body fenders. Now, like I said, I like to think in themes. So later that year at Christmas time, I had another video. And if you've ever watched A Christmas Story, that's one of my favorite stories, I guess you'd say movies from as a kid. So I started a video with this.
What would you like for Christmas, little boy?
Santa, I want one of those fox body wide bodies like that guy at Basin Motorsports is making, with the big fat flares and the 315 tires and the small block and the 5-lug swap. I want one of those.
You don't want one of those. You'll steer it into a crowd.
No!
Now, as much as you're here to see how much of a goofy, weird, funny personality I am, let's get down to business. You're really here to judge my ability to do work. Now, granted, I'm standing in front of a camera, but outside of that, on my Halo car here, the wide body that you saw at the Benefit for the Basin show, in there, I have done a lot on this. So obviously I've laid vinyl, but let's go back. Let's go back to when I started this car. When I first started this, you would say things might have gotten pretty serious.
So, yeah, you could say it's kind of getting serious.
Now beyond that, I had to lay in my driveway in the dirt and the gravel to clean up this body here. I don't have a lot of here. I don't have a lift. I don't have a lot of fancy tools. All I have is 2 digits, well 10 digits, 2 hands, and a lot of hard work to get a lot of things done. Now beyond that, I then had to go on to welding. So you know, if Mustangs here, if they're not running subframe connectors and that, they get a lot of cracks in the body. So I then had to weld up the body of the floor. Now, like I said, I have cut up the body on this to be able to put on the wide body fenders. I've also welded those together, so those two together, there's a lot of metal shaping there. Now, I've also done some body work on this, not a whole lot, because thankfully the body was pretty straight, but in the engine bay, I ended up shaving out the AC. I didn't want AC. This car is supposed to be a raw, race-ish car, not racist, race-ish, if that makes sense, race-based. So I had to shave out all the stuff on the firewall. So that was done. I then did filler work, a lot of sanding, and some simple paint in here because I knew I was going to scratch it up. So I didn't go with fancy high dollar paint. I just used some spray cans, which came out pretty darn nice for the amount of labor put into them. Now I actually got these fenders from Meyer Racing. Well, their molds were about 20 years old, maybe even 30. And they had actually started to curl in on themselves when I got them. So when I got these fenders, they actually didn't fit at all. So in order to get these things to fit, I ended up taking a hacksaw and really just cutting a ridge down here about 12 inches from the edge. I also had to get in here, shape this to match the door itself. So I also had to do a lot of fiberglass work and a lot of sanding. So when it comes to body work, I'm not afraid of getting dirty. I'll get in there and sand some stuff up. Cut, paste, whatever it takes. Now as you saw, this thing here is actually vinyl wrapped. I didn't do a lot of paint on this. I did the quarter panels and did some other stuff, but I wanted to try my hand at vinyl wrapping. So I took a class and I've done a lot of vinyl wrapping since. This is the very first car I ever tried and it came out pretty darn nice. So here's some footage of me laying some vinyl down on the wide body here, doing the hood, which I then since done some work on my wife's Suburban. She wanted something a little bit different in a Harlequin theme. And when I redo this again in a couple of years, I don't know what I'm gonna do yet. Maybe multicolored, it may end up just being a digital print. I'm not sure. So as you see behind, I've got another Mustang already in here. There is no space in here that doesn't get filled by either parts or cars. So this is another Mustang I'm doing a complete restoration on. It will be torn down, resealed, and put back together with a vinyl wrap. All while I work, I like to do theme songs. So here's a song I came up with when I was doing the wide body. I'm building a wide body Mustang. I'm building a wide body Mustang. So now specifically, you guys want to know exactly why I am able to work at Ken Diggett Designs, either as a mechanic or doing metal. So one of the things, that the ambitions I have for my wide body is I want to get rid of this fiberglass. I want to go back to 100% metal. So in the future, I'm going to get a English wheel. Don't have one, don't know how to use one, but I'm going to learn how to use one. I will get an English wheel and I will recreate these wide body fenders in metal. Now outside of that, you already know I can weld. I can do body work, filler, paint. I can even vinyl wrap. Now vinyl may not be your thing, but to lay down graphics, whether it's racing stripes or anything else, vinyl is nothing different. It's a matter of laying out the pattern, seeing the vision, and getting it done. Now if you think I'm not weird enough for your show, well, does anyone else have one of these? This is Salty. This is my shop kitten. Does anybody else have a shop kitten? Everybody's got a dog. I bet nobody really has a cat, but I do. So if that doesn't prove that I'm weird enough to hang out at Ken Diggett Designs, fellas, we're gonna have to answer that in the next round of video. We'll see you next time, and next time, bring beer. All right, so that was round 3. Now at this point, honestly, I was a little shocked thinking that I might actually get to be on this show. So I turned in the round 3, and these were both posted on YouTube as unlisted. So the links were out there. I sent them the links. They would watch them. And it was kind of interesting because I could go through the videos on my channel, and I could look through and see when somebody had watched it. So the original one I did, the original video for round 2, only got 1 view, which I was like, okay. I thought, well, it's no big deal. So I get to round 3, submitted the link in. It actually had 2 views, and I was like, ooh, we went up a view. So I was like, okay, well, that's pretty cool. And that was the end of September. Now, come like a week and a half later, they sent over the release to basically say that I could, they could use my likeness or, any of my content and all that on any of the show, which I was like, hey, cool. No big deal. They could use it for I think the premiere episode is probably going to be kind of like mashup of all the people that applied and all that kind of thing. And after that, I kind of like fell off. And I was like, okay, well, it's October, no big deal. They're going to film in January. And I was like, well, okay, no big deal. So the end of October came and I was like, didn't hear nothing. Okay. Go through November, got to Thanksgiving, get to the end of November. I'm like, still didn't hear anything. I was like, okay, well, then no big deal. So December 6th rolls around and get a call. And I was actually had been on my phone doing something else. Phone rings, I pick it up, and it's like, hey, this is so-and-so from the production company. And I was like, what? Hello? She's like, hey, this is so-and-so from the production company. I just wanted to let you know you made it to the final round. You are part of the small group, and I need to do a 30-minute phone interview with you. So I'm like, okay, we set up a time for later that afternoon. I hung up the phone, and I looked over at my wife, and she looked at me, and she's like, are you serious? You made the final round? I was like, yeah, I guess so. All right, so skip ahead a few hours. And so let's call this round 4, right? Final round. So we get through and it ends up being about 35 minutes on the phone with one of the producers. She asked a lot of questions. We go through that stuff. And so she basically says, okay, you've made it down to the last group. Now, there are 8 contestants. Let me show you. 8 people that are going to be on the show. Now, I assume they're probably going to have some alternates. What she says is that, you made the final group. There's going to be, a certain amount, they kick them over, and the network has the final pick. Now, I'm at this point thinking, okay, I've made it down to 8 plus a few alternates. So let's say there's 20, right? I've made it down to the top 20. At this point, I was flipping ecstatic to be into that group. So anyway, we got off the phone right there, and she had told me, hey, here's kind of the shooting thing, and we go through, and she says, I'll let you know next week if you get picked for the show or not. Okay, cool. So now I'm thinking, oh man, they're going to shoot this, and I got to have time off, and how am I going to do this with work? And so my mind is just racing, like for days. Didn't sleep very well, I'm like, oh my gosh, this could be like the biggest break ever. What can happen? Maybe I run for president later on. I don't know. My mind is just out there. So day after day, I'm wondering. So it gets to Wednesday, and there's a guy I had looked up on YouTube because I kind of looked to see if anybody else had any videos out there. Found a guy that I was like, okay, well, here's his video and all that stuff. So I follow him on Instagram, and he ends up putting up that he got a call Wednesday from Kevin Sheely and said, hey, you made the show. And I'm like, okay, cool. All right, well, if they all got notified, maybe I didn't make it or anything else. So I'm like, okay, kind of bummer. So long story short, today's Thursday, and I got a call this morning, and I didn't make the show. So anyway, the producers at the production company thought I would be a good fit for it. But the network is what they said. The network said, not the best fit. So I'll easily say I'm a little disappointed. Absolutely, there's no shame in saying I'm a little disappointed that I didn't get chosen for the final cast. Now, the production company was really nice. I can't remember. and I shouldn't say whoever I talked to, but they said, the production company really thought I would be a pretty good fit, had good personality. I feel like I'm decently polished for camera. I mean, I've done 360 videos on YouTube. So I think I've got a little bit of a craft down, a little bit of strategy and all that kind of stuff. Now, I will admit, I didn't know if I really could win that position. And if I did, I didn't know I was going to wouldn't be the best choice. So it's okay. Disappointed I didn't get picked? Yes. Am I disappointed or glad I didn't get picked? Yes. Because it would have brought a lot of stress and everything else. So no big deal. Think about this though. I made it down into the top handful out of 2,000 people. To me, that's an accomplishment in itself. It's staggering to think that I beat better than probably about 100 to 1 odds of being selected to just get down to that group. And I think it's fantastic. So I'm definitely not disappointed that I didn't get picked for this show. Whoever wins the show, and I don't have any information on that, whoever wins it, I think you're doggone gonna deserve it, and I hope it does very well for you. So at this point, I've been through, I will call it 3 rounds, maybe a 4th round of the interview process. And like the production companies asked, if they go into a season 2, they said, please apply again. And so who knows? Maybe I'll apply for season 2 if it comes back, or there are other shows like this. Maybe that production company keeps me in mind and says, you know what? That guy wouldn't have fit for that show, but this new one, maybe so. So that's it, guys. Hopefully you enjoy watching the show on the Motor Trend streaming app. I actually don't know if I will actually watch it because I don't subscribe to it, but maybe I will now. But that's it. That's my 4 rounds of trying to get into Bitchin Bootcamp, which was unsuccessful, but in my mind, pretty darn successful to get to that point. And I hope you've enjoyed the ride of watching the little piece on. Now, if you're new and you haven't subscribed to the channel, hopefully you might watch a little bit of my other content of building my widefox, my wide body Fox body Mustang, which was a complete wreck when I bought it. And it's back to something pretty interesting. So that's it. Thanks for your time today. Thanks for watching all the stuff. And I will put some links up at the end to the other videos and to the wide body build itself. Enjoy the show, and we'll see you next time.